There it is.
Okay, I'll start over then. Okay. Hi, and welcome to the meeting of the Rotary E-Club of District 7710, Tuesday, October 3rd, 2020. Our guest speaker for this evening is Gloria, Miranda, and Rotarian Lonnie Irvin will be introducing our guest speaker this evening. So I will turn it over to Lonnie.
Okay, thank you. If I could ask everyone to mute your microphones, that would be great. We're getting a lot of background noise. I'm going to introduce Miranda, Gloria Miranda, and I won't take up much time because I really want her to get through her presentation. But let me just tell you, a caring person, you won't find one that cares more about people. Compassionate, thorough. We worked together at an alternative school for a number of years, where she supported kids in and out of school. So going almost always above and beyond. One of the funny things, I'd like to tell you something funny. So I had this really busy office. I put everything up. I had stuff all over the place. She said, Lonnie, kids with special needs, you would really scare them because you have all the stuff everywhere. So she had to come in and help me reorganize my office so it didn't scare, actually, I think it started scaring me. So she helped me reorganize my office, so it's really pleasing. I think it was probably because I spent so much time in hers because it's always calm and welcoming there. But without further ado, I'm gonna let Miranda tell you a little bit about her. You have her bio, she's talented, but great resource for everyone here. Great resource for everyone here. So without further ado, Gloria Miranda.
Well, I would like to thank everyone for allowing me to speak tonight, and definitely thank Mr. Irvin for that wonderful introduction. I am gonna put myself on mute. I mean, not on mute. I'm gonna put myself with the camera off just so that I could share my screen and be able to talk. I want to give a disclaimer, I am not feeling my best today. However, as I teach people to be resilient and to use their resources, I practice that as well. So I actually practice what I teach. And so I'm going to push through and I will present. I will not be the full 30 minutes. I'm a very person that goes really direct and to the point because I know your time is precious. So I will start by sharing my screen. I will be showing some videos, so hopefully we won't have any issues, but we will move forward. Okay. Can everyone see okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So my name is Gloria Miranda. I have a master's in science. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and I'm also a national certified counselor, as well as a national school counselor. I'll start out by asking people, how are they showing up? This is something we do. A lot of the strategies that I will actually be presenting to you are things that I do with clients to kind of just get them in a space where they're able to focus on being in a meeting and taking us to see where they're entering the meeting and how we leave the meeting. So we have a mountain, we have a beach, and then we have a waterfall. So I would ask someone to tell me if they had to choose, how would they be showing up, and to share why they chose the picture. Do I have any volunteers?
I can volunteer. This is Rhonda. I would say that I feel like I'm a waterfall right now. I don't know, just I've been on back-to-back meetings since 7 a.m. and this is the last one for the day, but every hour on the hour, I feel like I'm spilling over.
Okay, okay. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
I'm on the beach because I haven't started school I'm not going to start until the 19th. Then I'll turn into the waterfall. But I'm on the
Okay.
beach right now.
And for me, I would say I would be probably the mountain today, because again, pushing through, having to push forward to get to the top, and hopefully after the meeting be able to lay back down to get to the bottom. And so I would explain these and have the young people as well as my clients to talk about this and process through. And this is just like an open conversation to get us in a space where then we can move forward and process some things. So a little bit about me. I have some pictures here, and based on these pictures, you can probably come up with your own storyline. And this is my journey. However, everyone goes through some things, some experiences that actually help them to define their journey and who they become. So I was born in the Bronx, New York. I grew up in the projects, and if you know anything about New York projects, it's pretty rough. My mom was a single mother. She had 9 kids. My mom had schizophrenia. And if you know about schizophrenia, the mental illness is one of the hardest diagnoses, because it's constantly, as soon as they feel like they get control over it, they have to reshift and put new medicine and just new strategies. And so she struggled in silence with mental illness because of the stigma. Of course, being from a single mom, you know, we lived off of food stamps and the government assistance. Unfortunately, I saw a lot of violence and things that a young person at my age should have never seen. And I will go on to the positive now. I had a teacher who saw something in me, and she wouldn't quit at bringing out the best in me. And I bet if you can think of for a moment, there were people in your life who saw something and were there to nurture it and allow you to help you to become who you have became. And so from that one teacher who just went above and beyond, who I can gladly say every time I present, I give her credit, because she is my best friend to this day. We stay in contact, and she has never left. She helped pay for me to get my SAT. She helped when I needed books. She just went above and beyond, and she was a game changer for me. And as a result, she helped me to know that I can go to college. And so I was able to graduate from High Point University with a bachelor's of arts. I then went on to A&T and got my master's in counseling. And I'm currently at UNCG getting my administration add-on so that I can become a principal. And so the stigma, unfortunately, we live in a society today where we can go to the doctor and someone can say they have cancer, and everyone will support them on a journey. You know, follow up with your doctor's appointment. They won't look at them as there's something lacking in them. However, when we think about mental illness, we often see people struggling to deal with the stigma that comes from it. And witnessing my mom go through it and wanting to hide from it and to suffer in silence, as well as me to suffer in silence going to school, not being able to focus when I went into class because, you know, I was worried if my mom would commit suicide. I was worried, you know, what would happen to my mom while I was in school. So oftentimes, you know, I gave my best, but behind the scenes, I was struggling. And when I look at mental illness, you know, it's not, it's biology. It's not a mental weakness. People don't choose to be mentally ill. And that's a brain chemistry, and DNA makes up these things. I think it's important that as much as we, you know, encourage people to get checked up for cancer and to get checked up and make sure, you know, they don't have any other illnesses, that we really support people in this push to make sure that mental illness is not seen as weakness, but as an illness that needs support. And so how it led me to the business. Full-time, I am a school counselor and a dean of students at an alternative school here in Raleigh. I do that in the daytime. And then in the evening, 3 years ago, which I will give a lot of credit to Mr. Irvin for supporting me on this journey, I started my own private practice. And the reason why I lead up to the experiences, because that is what led me here. The business came from wanting to help in the silence that comes with mental health, especially in the African American community. Being able to share my story and being able to see the impact it had on me so that I can help another child not go through it in silence and be able to get the support to nourish and flourish and thrive. And so my name is Triple C Counseling Services. And one is for counseling, coaching, because a lot of people don't like hearing teaching. So coaching is another way to, positively send a message to people and to cultivate your best self. And it's also from my mom's name, Charlene, and which she named me Chi Chi as my nickname. So I put from her, I became. And so that's where my business name came from. So my focus is a lot really on school-age children and adolescents, but I also work with adults. I utilize trauma-informed a lot because as we look at, and this is pre-COVID, a lot of people experience trauma and how they respond and deal with it is different for individuals. I utilize a lot of cognitive behavioral where I'm helping people to understand how their thoughts impact their behaviors and their feelings, as well as solution focused and motivational interviewing, helping people to see what do they want out of life and how do we get there. If I go too fast, please slow me down because sometimes I can get going. So some of the facts, and again, as we all know, COVID has impacted people differently. And these facts are during COVID, as well as some, as we know, are going to be greatly impacted after COVID. And this is one thing that it impacts us all. And having a lot of money, having a little money, it makes a difference in what resources we have access to, but it's going to be vital as we move forward as a society on how do we help individuals that are dealing with mental health. And it impacts us all. And so as you can see that more than 1/3 of Americans have displayed signals of signs of anxiety, depression, or both since the coronavirus. And that's from the Census Bureau. 50% of the people are comfortable discussing mental health issues. And then as a result of COVID, they said the alcohol sales have went up 55%, as well as 70% online. And the pandemic is currently, most people are thinking it's impacting our older adults, but they're saying that the stress is significantly impacting our young people. So you're probably asking, why am I sharing this? As you know, Mr. Irvin has, bragged constantly about the group and your efforts in making our communities better. It's going to be vital that we understand the impact that COVID is going to have on people's mental health. And what are we going to do as a community to help support these people and create change, systematic change? So the adverse childhood experience, I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but it's a study that was done by the Kaiser Permanente and the Center for Disease. And it talks about the impact that having certain adverse childhood experiences create in your life that allows you to be able to have a higher score and have later health problems. So I took this test, and I can share it with Mr. Irvin and he can share it with you all. I took this test, and I also give this test to every client that I deal with. When I took the test, I had 7 out of 10. You can get, it's 10 questions, and I had 7 out of 10. Statistically, I should not be okay. Statistically, I should have been a teenage mom, a dropout, and some other things that society has said. But however, even though these negative, we have these negative adverse experiences as a result of what we've been through in our early childhood, we have the ability to change it. My one mentor, as I mentioned earlier, helped me to change my whole track in society. So from her, as a result, I was able to make wiser decisions and be able to get the support I need to thrive. And what I do is I take these results from my clients and we work on what systems need to be in place to help them thrive. And so I can share that with you all, but as you can see, they're saying that if you have 4 or more ACEs, you're more likely to have lung disease from smoking. You're more likely to commit suicide, have depression, have drug abuse, have liver disease, and even die earlier. And so what's amazing is that doctors now are understanding how trauma impacts the body and the brain. And the more they do that, and the more it's integrated within, you know, all areas of our lives, the better we will have healthier people. And so something else that has been really new to me is learning about how what you eat really impacts your mood. And again, the stuff that I'm kind of briefly sharing with you, these are things that I actually share with my clients, because there's power in knowledge and being able to understand that you have the ability to control your mental health just by what you eat. So I want you to think for a moment when you get that good old cheeseburger or those good old cookies and how you have that high. But after that high, what happens? Anyone?
You come down off that high.
You come down off that high. And when we look at, you know, they say that the impact of COVID is really impacting our Latino and African American community. But when we think about access to resources, what kind of foods do you think they're eating? And it's showing now, you know, a big push is on how nutrition is an area that we're not looking at when we discuss mental health. And, you know, think about young people in school. Sometimes I can tell a student was hungry just by their attitude. And so the food that we eat highly impacts our moods. And so being able to make decisions to choose healthier foods, to choose more balanced foods can be one small way that we gain control over how we feel and how we act. And I did have a video that I would like to share quickly. And so I'm going to stop sharing so that I can go back to something else. Let's see if it opens up. Can you hear this? Can y'all see it coming on?
North Carolina's families count on
No, we don't see it. We don't see it.
You can hear it. but
We can hear it, but we don't see
Okay,
it.
let me try to figure this out really quickly. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
in Medicare they've paid into. But Republican state legislators, they're counting on wealthy special interests. They supported a tax plan that gives most of the benefits to the ultra-rich and corporations, adds to the debt, and makes it harder for North Carolina families and people close to retirement. They may be great for the wealthy, but North Carolina Republican state
I don't know how to skip
legislators
this, so
don't
I'm
want
sorry.
for us. Paid for by Everytown for Gun Safety Action Fund.
In our morning rounds, the emerging science on how food affects your mood. Government figures show more than 16 million American adults report having a major episode of depression in the past year. Women are affected more often than men. A new field of study, nutritional psychiatry, looks at how diet can improve mental health. It could help patients shift from pharmaceuticals to food-based therapies. Our Dr. Taran Narula is here. Good morning.
Good morning, Nora.
I could talk about this forever. I'm so fascinated by this subject. So just broadly speaking, what is nutritional psychiatry?
Well, it's the idea that maybe a psychiatrist should be asking you what was on your dinner plate last night. What did you eat for lunch? The idea that food plays an essential role in our mental health in the same way that we think about it playing a role in cardiovascular disease, in our blood sugar management, in our gastrointestinal health. John LaPook just did Sunday morning. We talked about its effects on cancer. So it's something that we don't often think about. But there has been recent research in this emerging field in the last 5 years that shows that healthier dietary patterns can reduce the risk of things like depression and anxiety.
And what's the connection?
So the brain is a highly metabolic organ. It uses a lot of energy, a lot of nutrients. It's always on. And it depends on fuel, but not just any fuel, like a car. You want to give it expensive, high quality fuel. That means foods that have the right nutrients, the right vitamins, the right sources of protein, because these form the building blocks for the neurotransmitters in the brain, for the cellular structure of the brain, for the enzymes in the brain.
Well, all I know is a cheeseburger always puts me in a really good mood, and I know you're not talking about that kind of food, unfortunately.
No, we're not.
So when you talk about healthy kind of food, other than the usual, the greens and the legumes and the avocados, what are, I like those too. What are the unexpected things that people might not think about that you think you should try
that's
that?
a mood booster.
That's a mood booster.
There are healthy dietary patterns, for instance, the Mediterranean diet that's been studied and shown to reduce risk of depression. But there's also specific nutrients and vitamins, things like the B vitamins, omega-3s, iron, zinc, folate, magnesium, choline. These are some other things that people can think about, probiotics, prebiotics. And the idea is that when you eat these foods, essentially many of them can become the basis for the brain chemicals, the neurotransmitters. So serotonin, for instance, one of the main neurotransmitters in the brain, 90% of it is produced in the gastrointestinal tract. In addition, the fruits and vegetables that you eat give you antioxidants. These can be anti-inflammatory. It can boost your immune system when you get the right vitamins. So there's a lot of ways or potential pathways that these.
And there's a lot of connection too, as you're just getting to, I can tell, it's the microbiome, gut bacteria, how important gut bacteria is. And one of the, I try and eat yogurt every morning. What are the other things that help your gut bacteria improve it?
Fermented foods, so sauerkraut, kimchi, probiotics, prebiotics, things like Brussels sprouts, onions, garlic. These things can essentially boost your body's own natural bacteria. But yes, the gut bacteria, they work as a defense layer, preventing the flow of bad toxins across that layer that can potentially get into the blood and be pro-inflammatory. They also work to help the communication in the neurons between the gut and the brain.
So can I just ask real quick, is there somebody out there now, a doctor, if you gave them your diet, they could look at everything that's in there?
There are nutritional psychiatrists, yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, you lost me at sauerkraut, but I came back to Brussels sprouts.
And you can
Thank
put,
you, Dr. Taran.
and you can put avocado on a cheeseburger.
Yes, you can. I've done that.
So if you just think for a moment how powerful that is when a young person understands the impact of what they're putting in their bodies and how it impacts their mood. Not only does that impact that, it also impacts their weight when they're making healthier decisions. And so some of these videos that I showed with, that I'm sharing with you all, I also share with my clients, even my young clients as young as 8. And it's always amazing to hear them have those aha moments where they're like, I get why I get like this when I eat that candy. And it's powerful for them to have that ability to understand how their body is impacting their mood. I'm going to go back to sharing. Okay, so another activity that I do with my clients is I talk about grounding. And I want you to think for a moment, whenever you got a phone call and someone goes, hey, are you sitting? What does that typically mean if somebody goes, are you sitting? What do you think is next?
Some bad information is getting ready to come.
Exactly. And so through this model called the community resiliency model, if you haven't heard of it, it is a phenomenal model that Elaine Miller-Caros has created. And I was fortunate to actually get teaching directly from her that I present around the district in our school system, as well as the state, on how we can teach young people and adults to become more resilient. And so with grounding, it's stability, like you just said, is when you know that in the moment you're planted. And that's why they would typically say, are you sitting? Because that means I might knock you out when I tell you this. So let me get you in a state of support so that you can take what I'm about to give. And so just helping students to understand, when I present in public, I'm not a speaker, even though most people think I love doing it. I always have something in my hand because it helps me to stay grounded. So I hold it and I feel supported in that moment, which then makes my nervous system shift and say, okay, there's no danger, you're okay, go on, present. And because again, this is all biology. You know, our bodies react. It's natural. And so learning how to gain control over it is the key. And so I'm going to do a quick grounding activity with you all. So if for a moment you can just find a comfortable position. As you find a comfortable position, I want you to notice how you're being supported by the chair, the sofa, the bed, the floor, the wall, or the ground. As you bring your attention to the places of support, notice your breathing, your heart rate, your muscle relaxation. Notice especially any place inside that feels more relaxed, more pleasant, and more neutral. Next, bring attention to your back, your lower body, your thighs, your legs, and if you're sitting or standing, notice how your feet are resting on the floor and how they are making contact with the ground. Bring your attention to the sensations that are calming or neutral within your body. Take your time. As you bring attention to the neutral or pleasant sensations, notice your breathing, your heart rate, your muscle relaxation. If you become aware of an uncomfortable or even painful sensation, shift your attention to places that feel better. Notice the change. As a way to bring your practice of grounding to a close, slowly scan your body from head to toe. Bring attention to all the places inside that have changed in a more pleasant way since you started. And take your time. When you are ready, bring awareness back to the room or the space where we are in. And I would like you to just breathe. I teach my students and my clients this skill of grounding because it's a way to naturally reset your nervous system and get back to a place of wellness. And there's other strategies that I utilize that can help young people to learn how their body works and how they gain control. And I'll share a quick testimony of one of the little girls that I'm working with. The other day, I teach her this, the same way I'm teaching you, and I use the videos. And she goes, "Miss Miranda." I said, "Yes." She was like, "You have been like," she said, "You know how a tree stands up?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "You know how a tree is, sometimes it leans and it's not as strong and it looks like it might fall." And I said, "Yes." And she says, "I've learned how to use my resources and how to ground so that I can have a stick that supports me when I'm leaning over." And I just thought that was so powerful for a young 11-year-old to be able to make understanding of how she can gain support and get back up and stand strong and be resilient as she utilizes resources and learn grounding and the skills that we are learning to be well. And the sad reality is that every day I can get almost up to 5 calls of young people, of parents with young people who are stressing about the behaviors that they're starting to see as a result of kids being home remote, of behaviors of depression, of anxiety, of stress. And then when you think about our adult community, the stress they're dealing with and how it impacts our youth. And as an educator, as a counselor, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about the impact of what COVID would do years later to our future, to our young people. And so what is going to be vital is, I won't show that video just for the sake of time, is going to be how do we set up systems in our community to ensure that people are having access to good food and healthy food? How do we make mental health stigma less so that people will seek support and services? How do we support people and maintain our own wellness so that we can then provide support in our communities? And it's going to be vital because our dropout numbers are going to continue to rise. Our substance abuse is going to continue to rise. You know, these things that are happening in our community will only get better when we have people here doing our part. The sad reality is that I have to learn how to be a business person because, as Lonnie has said, I am very much a person of service. I'm blessed that I had a grandmother and an aunt that were nuns that showed me how to give back. And so sometimes I often struggle with having people pay for services when they can't afford it, because I don't think mental health should be the have and the have nots have access. I think all people should. And so that's kind of my spill. I say what we pay attention to grows. And so as we teach, people how to reset their nervous system, as we teach people how to maintain wellness, as we teach people the power of their brain and being able to be flexible to change and grow, it only grows. And so that is all I had. I'm going to stop my screen. Oh, I won't. I have my contact information if you would like. You're probably like, well, what do you want me to do with this information? If you have clients that, if you have people in your community that can benefit from services, there's my contact information. If you want more information about any strategies, interventions, the video, just let me know and I will be happy to share that. And so I'm going to take this off and be open for questions and answers.
Gloria, the video that you were talking about, could you email it? Could you send it to us and I would share it with the club?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd appreciate that. And I want to thank you. That was a very good presentation, because, now with the coronavirus, mental health is very important. We tend to forget it. So it's very important about that. I really appreciate your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions? Anything?
Really appreciate the presentation. Mental health is definitely something that gets overlooked easily. And I think it certainly needs to be at the forefront of a lot of things. I see a lot of patients every day, and they won't check off anything on health history, but they'll fill out medications that are common for mental health issues.
Yes.
And it is way more prevalent than people think. You are very correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
anyone else? Well, if not, we have Miranda, you have something, sorry? Anyone else?
No, I was saying that was good insight. Well, because it is a stigma, you don't want to check it off, identify, but like you said, it's associated with you just by marking that. But I think it's a universal issue, not just to children and adults, but I'm seeing my husband works a lot with the elderly and just their routines. I mean, you can imagine those that are in some of these homes that have to see their loved ones through the window. I mean, that right there, it wreck anybody, it wrecks the person in and the person out. So, yes. But my husband's dealing with people having to just everyday routines because they have dementia or Alzheimer's or what have you. It's really speeding up the cognitive issues because they can't do their regular routines, and they're at least aware that I should be going outside and going to whatever the activities they once were. But yeah, now they're not even seeing the doctors too much anymore. So yes, slow them down a lot.
So I'm going to add just one thing, and there's a reason I've been asking Ms. Miranda to come and speak with us, is that I want us to start as a group, if we start thinking about this as we look for projects and things that we want to participate in. We know she gave us some really good insight on the issues surrounding it currently, but she also gave us an outlook that we have to think about as well. So when we look at projects, if we could start thinking about ways we can impact this, it will be really, really, really great. I think it'll make it, it's one of those things that's global. So we can do it with MG in India, as well as Washington, where we have members as well. So.
Okay, Gloria, we have a certificate to present to you. Melinda?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I had to wait for it to open up there. Okay. Rotary E-Club of District 7710 Certificate of Appreciation is hereby granted to Gloria Miranda for imparting valuable insight and inspiration as our guest speaker awarded October the 6th, 2020. Doris Wallace, President, 2020-21, Rotary E Club of District 7710. And thank you so very much. It was greatly appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Miranda.
You're welcome.
Okay, Lonnie, would you give the four-way test tonight?
Yeah, yes, I will. Can I share with who our next speaker is going to be before we do that? I know
Okay.
everybody's ready to go, and like Will, I'm a little sleepy too. So
Okay.
our next meeting, I wanted to share with you, we will have a gentleman by the name of Thomas McLaurin. He's going to talk with us about some projects. Actually, he's the first cousin of George Floyd. So he's coming to Raleigh to work on some projects, and we're looking at some grants for our school